Hello, and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen and stuff that's been on the news lately.
Months in the making and delivered just days after the latest in a long line of anti-Semitic attacks, this is Gillian Siegel's call to action.
It's not a symbolic document, it's an action plan.
Designed to combat a surge in anti-Semitism since the October 7 attacks that sparked the war in Gaza. Synagogues set alight, cars torched, swastikas scrawled onto buildings.
The idea that somehow the cause of justice for Palestinians is advanced by behaviour like that is not only delusional, it is destructive.
These are not isolated events, and they form part of a broader pattern of intimidation and violence that is making Jewish Australians feel very unsafe.
The wide-ranging plan calls on governments to toughen hate crimes laws and to embed Holocaust and anti-Semitism education in national school curriculum.
Education is central.
Higher education also in the Envoy sites, calling for a commission of inquiry into campus anti-Semitism and for the government to strip funding from universities, cultural institutions and festivals that fail to combat hatred against Jewish people.
We'll now carefully consider the report recommendations.
We want to see this dealt with urgently, and I think that's what the Jewish community is after as well.
Among Jewish leaders,
today really is a new dawn, and I think it's a momentous day for the Jewish community and for Australia.
The type of things we're seeing against the Jewish community shouldn't be happening to anybody. And we eventually need to laws and penalties and structures to make sure this doesn't happen to anybody.
the Prime Minister is seeking to reset what has been a fraught relationship with the Jewish community while redrawing the boundaries of what is acceptable discourse in a democracy. The Gaza war has tested social cohesion, but Anthony Albanese is imploring Australians who rejected extremes at the election to reject the extremist views in this debate.
Criticism of Israel is legitimate, as is criticism of the Palestinian Authority. But you can put forward those views respectfully.
Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
From Jay Wire on the 10th of July. Education is central. Key recommendations of the 44-page report include embedding Holocaust and anti-Semitism education in the national curriculum, revoking charitable status from groups spreading anti-Semitic ideologies, requiring public institutions to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. I don't know what that is. It is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Australia commemorated International Holocaust Remembrance Day with a virtual ceremony that illuminated the stories of survivors alongside the voices of leaders within the wider community to combat racism and discrimination and to ensure that the lessons of the Holocaust continue to be passed on to future generations. Strengthening hate crime legislation at federal and state levels, regulating social media platforms to curb hate speech and bot driven content, monitoring AI platforms and media to ensure accurate, impartial coverage and suppress distorted narratives. Albanese also stressed the need for cooperation between government and civil society every day, every week, every month, every year, and criticised the media for amplifying hate, referencing a segment on the ABC which a woman appeared to justify the violent storming of a Melbourne restaurant. Those people said that, and here's some stuff from 4 days ago, followed by some stuff from 9 days ago.
Victoria will be updated on increased police powers to crack down on extreme and violent protests in the wake of a terrifying weekend of anti-Semitic attacks in Melbourne. The Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen has flagged the changes while unveiling the Anti-Hate Task Force, which will meet for the first time this week.
A 34-year-old man has faced court over the arson attack at a Melbourne synagogue on Friday while 20 people were inside. Let's go straight to Steph Ferrier, who's outside the East Melbourne Hebrew congregation. Steph, good morning. So what's the Premier saying about this task force?
Good morning, Emma. Yes, the Premier Jacinta Allen is set to visit Melbourne's oldest synagogue behind me this morning, and this week she will be part of the first meeting of that new anti-hate task force, which will not only include her but also the Police Minister, the Melbourne Lord Mayor, members from Victoria Police and also, very importantly, members from the Jewish community. And Premier Jacinta Allen says that it's going to take a bigger picture look across Melbourne and the state in terms of protecting the Jewish community, and that includes the development of increased police powers to stamp out violent and extreme protests. Now, she also has issued a statement in relation to this anti-hate task force, saying that places of worship like this synagogue are part of the fabric as a society, and we will protect them with everything we've got. Now, she goes on to say that hate has no place in Victoria. She's also announced funding for mental health support, especially for the children who were inside at the time that this congregation was firebombed. And this was just one of 3 attacks here in Melbourne on Friday night. It also included some offensive chants and pro-Palestinian protesters clashing with diners at a restaurant in Melbourne CBD, as well as cars being set alight in Melbourne's north. And yesterday, police say that they've been investigating offensive graffiti at a restaurant just near Melbourne's Holocaust Museum.
And Steph, what is the latest with all those police investigations?
Well, police say that detectives are investigating the alleged intent behind the 34-year-old who has been charged over this synagogue attack. Angelo Loris from Toongabbie in New South Wales is going to appear in court again later this month after his case was heard over the weekend and he was remanded in custody. And we have also seen several police patrols just going slowly outside the synagogue behind me here this morning, just as a mark of reassurance to the Jewish community that Victoria Police is doing everything it can to protect them.
An extremist Sydney preacher faces potential bankruptcy after repeated online attacks on Australian Jews. The Islamic firebrand says that he didn't intend to insult anyone. The court's decision, though, will have far-reaching consequences for religious hate speech throughout Australia, as our National Affairs editor Hugh Riminton explains.
45-year-old Bankstown carpet layer William Haddad is more famous as the radical preacher Abu Usaid. He called for his online followers to turn out to support him for his judgment day in the federal court. Few did. The judge declaring him a racist who intended to offend, insult, intimidate and humiliate Australia's Jews in a series of lectures posted online.
No community in this wonderful country should be dehumanised in the way that Mr Haddad treated us.
The judge found Haddad's depiction of Jews as vile, treacherous and descended from animals was not made reasonably or in good faith, and on the evidence of Islamic scholars had no foundation in Islam.
It confirms that the days when Jewish communities and the Jewish people can be vilified and targeted with impunity are long gone.
But Haddad claims he was victorious in the sight of Allah.
The words he spoke were those from the scripture, and he maintains that he has the right to quote religious scripture, as all parties do.
The judge was not fazed by Haddad's criticism of Zionists, finding that disparagement of Zionism constitutes disparagement of a philosophy or an ideology, not a race or ethnic group.
So we have a clear line. Public disparagement of Jews on the basis of ethnic or racial characteristics is unlawful. Criticism of the policies of Israel or even of Zionism itself is fair game.
Haddad's immediate problem is money, with costs running to hundreds of thousands of dollars and no broad support in the Islamic community. 10 News understands bankruptcy is an option. Hugh Riminton, 10 News.
יחסית יהדות, אסלאם ונצרות, מי הכי קרוב ליהדות? נצרות או אסלאם? ולמה? האסלאם? הכי קרוב בעיקרון זה הנצרות, כי הנצרות נוצרה מתוך היהדות. גם האסלאם? כולנו משפחה. מוחמד לא היה יהודי. מוחמד היה יהודי. ישו היה יהודי, זה הדבר הראשון. אוקיי, ולמה אתה אמרת אסלאם? לגבי החוקים, כי ישמעאל היה מוסלמי. אז כן, יש קשר בינינו. יש לו אברהם אבינו, אתם הולכים לאברהם אבינו. קודם תמצא תיבת נוח, אחר כך נדבר על ישמעאל. מבחינת ההלכות, אין שום דמיון בין היהדות לבין ההלכות בנצרות ובאסלאם, בעיקרון. חוץ משהם שומרים אולי על כשרות. הדת היהודית היא דת לא עם תרי"ג מצוות, 7,000 מצוות, מהרגע שאתה מתעורר עד שאתה הולך לישון. זה לא רק ללכת בשבת לבית כנסת ולאכול כשר ולא לנסוע בשבת, אלה הדברים הקטנים. אם מותר לי לשתות את זה או אסור לי לשתות את זה בכוס הזה. לכן אין דמיון בין המצוות, זה הכל. אני חושב שמה שיותר קרוב, לא קרוב במובן הזה שהם דומים, במובן שהנצרות נוצרה מתוך היהדות, והאסלאם לא. I rest my case.
האסלאם, מוחמד לקח הרבה דברים בתוך התורה שלנו ויישם אותם. לא הכל, אבל לא הכשר.
לא כשר, הם לא אוכלים חזיר.
במקום שבת, יום שישי. ולנוצרים הלכו ליום ראשון. עכשיו, הנוצרים, אנחנו נכנסים לבית כנסת עם כיפה, הנוצרים בכנסייה מורידים את הכיפה.
And that was from 10 years ago. This is a painting of Buddha that's near my house. Anyway, that'll do. See you later. Bye.